Alrighty, so you're actually ready to do your first lectures. And as I've said before, the thing that we're using for this course is Andrew Mead's Modern JavaScript Boot Camp for our book. In this case, it's not a book, but it's acting like a book. You will watch lectures and code along with them. So for this first two sections, and I'll refer back to here because now you've gone through setting up your dev server and now you're ready to do your first lectures. And I'm just going to kind of give you an overview of some of the things I want you to pay attention to. So I recommend watching this before you do that. Watching, I can say that word, watching section 1 and 2. You will code. And after this first 1 and 2, then most of what we're doing is coding, okay? But he's doing some setup. So in some sense, and you may feel this, when you're watching through, especially through section 2, it's going to feel a little like what you got with me with setting up your dev environment, except that he does not use GitHub. And for his terminal, he uses just an external terminal on the Mac. And what I've shown you is to use the terminal built inside of VS Code. So there is some differences, and you might wonder, well, then why am I having you watch this? Mostly because I think it just helps you kind of get into the groove of understanding his style, and it's really not that long. This PDF guide is really worth having. And really, it's here in the last video 8 in section 2, that you actually write some code, okay? So I wanted to show you now back here, again, before you do this, one of the things I'm going to say is I do not recommend you install or use Commander. And he talks about that here, Windows only, but I don't recommend it just because the built-in terminal is so helpful and so easy to use. Again, just to give you that visual for what I'm talking about, is in here I've shown in that other series is how to actually write code or run code or interact with the command line here. Okay, so back here. And then now here's the part he does talk about, and I want you to do this part, which is I want you to create a folder inside of your, this should be private. Let me fix that while we're talking. So actually remember, and this is good for us to start understanding, is that all the code along work, and in this case, code along really means lecture, or actually I'm looking up here, I call it code up. Work is done in the private, your particular private. Matter of fact, let me fix that as well. So what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to show you what it is he's going to have you do as far as the way our structure of our folders are set up. Okay, but you're going to, and this is the step here, is create under your private repo a folder, name it JS Bootcamp, and then under there you'll create your first one called Basics, and then you'll be using that. And then he'll have you create directories throughout the course, and just know that when we're doing the code up for the lectures, we're doing it inside the private, inside the JS Bootcamp. Okay, so now let me switch over and just show you again what this looks like. Now I've moved from working completely on the Windows environment to working on what I'm used to here, which is actually working on my Mac side. It's funny, now that I've looked in there, I realize I forgot to do the git ignore, so I'll need to take care of that in a minute. So I'm going to show you how to create under the private repo that directory for JS Bootcamp. And I'm going to do it because I've shown you now several different ways, but I'm going to actually show you from the command line. I'm going to do a list directory. I'm going to go, okay, so CD, and then the name of my directory on my list. There's nothing but the README, should be a git ignore. I'll fix that in a minute. And so what I want to do here is I'm just going to clear. I'm going to do a command called mkdir. So mkdir is a make directory command, and I'm going to do J. Now, what's key here is where am I in the right repo? Am I in the right location? And I'm going to call it boot camp. So JS boot camp. And what that will do, and you even see that show up over here. And now I'm going to change into, and in this case, I can just hit J, hit tab, and now in here it'll change into that, and I can do again that Mkdir. By the way, you can also use this interface, but using the command line is just good experience. Okay. Cool. So you'll see that one show up. Did I do it right? Yeah, I did it right. So in this case, you see that show up. Now this is the other thing, and this is good. I'm glad I remembered this. I'm going to clear this. Is that until you add a file in here, it actually won't show you a normal tree directory structure. And let me show you what I mean by that. So in here, we could actually, again, we're going to make a file. And in this case, remember, we've made folders. So I could use this interface. I could also use the command line. So now I'll switch over. Again, you could also use whatever file management. In this case, I use a Mac. So it's Explorer, no, I'm trying to remember, Finder. Yeah, see, I switch between operating systems so much I have to remember. So again, clicking in here, I'm going to call this one, and I believe it's hello world.js. Okay, and then console.log, hello world. Okay, now again, we talk about, and I should have done this, single quotes. There are times when you're writing code, most of the time, almost all the time in JavaScript, I will write single quotes just because that's generally what you can. When you're doing HTML, there are oftentimes you do double quotes. I do not do semicolons at the end. Some people do. So there's kind of the, like what some folks do and what some folks don't, and then there's best practices. And right now, the semicolons at the end of the line there's not a best practice. It's just really what you're comfortable with. Okay, so now that I've written that code, in here, I'm going to move into my basics directory because I'd created it, but I hadn't changed into it. And this is where, and this is the other thing, is you do need to install Node. And you might think, well, I'm not taking CIT93, which is my Node.js class, but this is part of why I want you to watch the first part of the JavaScript 1 and 2, is that he does talk about installing Node.js, and you still need it. So just to verify, I'm going to do this to tell me my Node version. Little side note, if you're interested, I also use a product called Node Version Manager so that I can run different Node versions of Node. Shouldn't be something you need, but if you want to know about that, let me know. Okay, so now I'm going to type Node and I'm going to type hello, which, by the way, again, my tab will work here because there's really only one file here, and then that works. Okay, so I basically just recreated what he told you in there, but I've also added the context of doing it in our course. And now what I need to do is actually, I'm going to pause real quick because I'm going to create that git ignore, and then I'm going to do the GitHub workflow with you. Okay, so I did that real quick just because I forgot and pushed that so that, and by the way, if you want another example of having it, and again, I mentioned in the videos before because they were for all my classes that not everyone needed this, but you all do for sure. And I think I actually forgot to install one thing that he talked about, which is possibly a live server. Anyway, I'll just go check that. All right, so now that I have this and I've run it, right now I'm actually ready to complete the Git workflow, right? So Git status. Cool. I do have some untracked files here. I do know that. So again, I could do git add star, or I could do git add hello world, because again, I'm only adding one. And then I could do git commit -m. And this is where in the write-up for this, I am specific because starting here after, I'll always want you to do a commit after each video. But in this case, code for section 2, video 8, I think. Okay, so I'll do that. Cool. All right, so, and now I'm ready to do a git push, which allows me to then push that code. And now I'm ready to submit it. So we'll do the last step together just to give you this experience together. I'm actually going to go ahead. I think I'm logged into GitHub as myself, and I am. So I'll go into our class 93. I'll go into my private repo, which is cool. I'll go into my basics right here. So what I can do here is that, and because you're going to be adding files, when you submit this, you can just submit this directory here, which will point to the folder. And then as things are placed into here in future videos, we will see them, and I'll be able to just see the files. But remember what I've said before is I look at the commits as well. Right, so just to confirm, that was 8. So next time, and I'll probably do a short video for this, we'll do part of this section 3, and then after, and just get used to this standard is after, of course, an intro doesn't have any code, but starting here, you will, after each video, just stop and do a commit. Which, by the way, you can do commits. Let me just tell you this. You can do a commit, and it's not until you're completely done, you're ready to submit. You can do a push, because all those pushes will include that. All right, back here. I know that's fast, so I should slow down. So I'm going to copy this. So as a student, and I'm just going to, for a second here, change over. I think I should be able to do this based on what I've already done. But remember, sequence in this class is important. You've gone through all these items, and now you're ready to submit your first lecture. So you submit the assignment. Again, I've gone over this. I've told you what the commit message needs to be. I'm going to hit submit, and then it opens up this, and then I just paste that URL. You can make any comments that you want to, and you submit the assignment. Okay, I hope this gives you a little more context, helps you understand. Again, this is a little bit of a review, this section 1 and 2, but you should have everything you need to get started. And please, again, if you have any questions, either reach out to me on Discord or reach out to me in here as well. Thanks, and it's time to move on to week 2. See you later.